Crisis breakthrough, new hope for an end to the crippling nurses' strike.
I think it's clearly an olive branch, and I'm always very happy to receive olive branches.
Karaoke killing, a Melbourne businessman murdered in a vicious gang attack. And down to the wire, the Bombers survive a thriller at Colonial. Good evening. A glimmer of hope in the nurses' dispute tonight. As we go to air, the union is holding an urgent executive meeting to consider a ceasefire, with a number of closed beds now soaring past 800.
Tensions between staff and patients' relatives are running high, with emergency departments overflowing today. 103 beds were closed at the Royal Melbourne. This man's brother with an infected leg is waiting on a trolley.
He's been in there since Friday. So he's still in there, he's still waiting on the trolleys.
So when the Nurses Federation says that they're allowing emergency patients to be treated or get a bed, that's not true.
The temperature was even rising at the launch of the Austin's aged care nursing home.
Why don't you give us some funds for nurses? We haven't got many nurses, and we are like that, suffering.
The government's called on nurses to give an undertaking to suspend but not cancel their bans and to talk. In return, Health Minister John Thwaites has promised the government will call off its court action planned for tomorrow.
I don't believe that a union and all its executive and members will want to be seen to continue to break the law. This is the sort of thing that unions would complain bitterly about if an employer did.
The Nurses Federation welcomed the offer, calling an urgent executive meeting tonight. Recommendations from that gathering will be taken to members, possibly on Tuesday.
I think it's clearly an olive branch, and I'm always very happy to receive olive branches.
But there have been no olive branches in the police pay dispute. This station, usually open 24 hours, will shut down tonight. The Police Association, with 8,000 authorisations from members, says other bans will include fewer mobile patrols, bans on unpaid overtime, on attending court and issuing penalty notices.
We're hopeful that we can resolve this dispute, but at the same time, we're not going to approach it with an open chequebook.
Nicole Chavastek, 7 News.
Police are appealing for witnesses to the gang murder of a man in Melbourne's Chinatown. The victim was chased from a karaoke bar onto Little Bourke Street and stabbed in front of onlookers.
The 32-year-old victim and a friend arrived at the Shanghai karaoke bar just after midnight and was set upon by a group of Asian males. As the fight continued along Little Bourke Street, he received multiple stab wounds.
Didn't look like a brood for a while. It's maybe indicative that the deceased knew his attackers.
His friend rushed him to Royal Melbourne Hospital, but restaurateur Duck Lamb died from his injuries. The homicide squad is looking at the videotape from the bar, but wants anyone who was at the venue or in the street to contact them. And 2 hit and runs in the space of 6 hours in Frankston have left a 26-year-old man dead and a 20-year-old woman in a critical condition. Police believe the man was lying on the Frankston-Dandenong Road when he was struck by a white utility with a silver tray. The student was crossing Heather Hill Road with a group of friends.
The vehicle had gone nearly into the gutter and struck the girl as she was stepping off the road.
A taxi driver reported seeing an early model Holden Commodore with damage to the left front. He also took the victim to hospital. Darren Linton, 7 News.
Victorian business owners are battling to survive, with some earning less than $8 an hour. A Retailers Association survey has also revealed there are more tough times ahead.
45 years in business has taught baker Claude Greck a thing or two, but moving from wholesaling to retail, he's toughing it out. The recent surveys found Victorian retailers work an average of 60 hours a week for just $7.65 an hour.
Well, I can relate to that. I probably earn less than that. I work about 80 hours a week. There are some weeks I don't pull any salary at all.
While it may be a dream for some to run their own business, the reality for many Victorians is proving to be very different. Many small retailers fear various union claims will send them broke.
With a lot of claims out there, with 23,000 retailers potentially having to pay in excess of 25% or as much as 25% extra in salaries, that really could be difficult for retailers in the long term.
I've cut back on staff. I've had to in order to try and get ends to meet. Now, depending on the size of these logs of claims, that's got to have an impact.
Federal government compensation over the GST BAS form confusion is also being sought.
The expenses that retailers are paying at the moment just cannot possibly increase if we intend to maintain a vibrant retail business in Victoria.
Carolee Tulvern, 7 News.
The show goes on at Sydney's Lennon Brothers Circus, minus the lions that attacked their tamer yesterday. The 40-year-old handler is recovering in hospital, still unable to talk about his injuries. He was performing in front of an audience of 400 at a lunchtime matinee when he turned his back on the lions. One of the big cats pounced, puncturing his back and clawing his legs and buttocks. Last night, the show went on without him and the lions. The Prime Minister touches down in Jakarta tonight on a mission to repair Australia's strained relationship with Indonesia. But his visit comes at a sensitive time, just weeks ahead of East Timor's first democratic elections.
We're the closest of neighbours, yet relations between Australia and Indonesia in recent years couldn't have been more distant. In a sign things are on the mend, John Howard will meet President Megawati Sukarno Putri just days after her new cabinet was sworn in.
It gives both of us an opportunity to develop a personal rapport within the context of a relationship that has to be realistic.
Despite hardline opposition to our ongoing involvement in East Timor, John Howard can smile knowing he's the first foreign leader to meet the new president. It's East Timor that will dominate tomorrow's talks. The first presidential elections will be held there later this month, and there are fears militia will use violence to disrupt the vote.
Throughout the country, we are all on high alert.
President Megawati has vowed to pursue past human rights abuses in East Timor, but with the rise of more independence movements, there are now reports similar atrocities are being carried out in the provinces of Aceh and Irian Jaya. Unlike its support for an independent East Timor, Australia has a very different view. In Canberra, Mitchell Catlin, 7 News.
While authorities ponder their next move in the hunt for Christopher Skase's assets, another chapter in the fugitive story is about to be told in a film based around a secret plot to kidnap the failed businessman.
Christopher Skase is dead.
A timely beginning to a story